Okay, so I'm going to be doing the self checkoff for week 12, which is sprains, injuries, splints, stuff like that. So the first thing is to go through the type of fractures. There's the transverse fracture, which is just fracture straight through the bone, straight across the line. Linear, which is running along with the bone. So the ulna runs right here. It would just break straight down the side of the ulna. Well, not the side, but straight through it. Oblique, non-displaced, which is just the common fracture. It's just a fracture straight across the bone here. Um, non-displaced because the bones are still touching, but there's a fracture there. And oblique non-displaced, oblique displaced, where it's a fracture here, but the bone will become separated from the piece that is broken. These normally happen when somebody is falling, they reach their arm out and they try to catch themselves. It could snap. It's how I broke my arm both times, actually. Uh, Spiral fractures, this is when somebody would plant their foot and twist. The twisting will create a spiral fracture in the bone. I had a friend who fractured his femur doing this. He was running, fell into a hole, and when he fell, he twisted a little bit and just fractured his femur completely. Green stick, we normally see these in younger people because their bones are still growing. What happens is the bone will break, and rather than separating completely, it will break and not separate at the bottom. So, like a little bit of the bone is fractured off, but it did not go completely through the bone. Comminuted, which is where we see these in uh, car crash victims. So the whole bone will be crushed. So let's say somebody's here and they've got like a cinder block falls on their arm, the whole thing is just gonna shatter. And avulsion fractures, this is what happens when the ligaments are pulled, and rather than fracturing or completely snapping the ligament will stay intact, but the bone will break off. This happened in my thumb when I was wrestling one time. I caught myself, pulled my thumb here, and it fractured the bone right at the base of the ligament. And next, we're going to move on to splints. Types of splints. This is a hard splint, a rigid splint that is made out of a plaster. I used this when I got another avulsion fracture when I was playing football. They made this so that I could keep playing. Essentially, it braces my thumb, makes it so it cannot move in or out at all. You hook it up, and it's not going to move anywhere. We covered it with a padding to make it game regulation and legal. I could still play with it. Sprains are injuries to ligaments. It's essentially when like a joint is twisted or put a lot of pressure on it. And there are 3 degrees. The first degree is when there's just stretching of the ligaments. Second degree is when there's micro tears but not quite fully snapped yet. And then grade 3 is when the ligament actually completely snaps. I have had both types in both ankles. Each type in each ankle. My 3rd degree came in my left ankle when I was playing football my senior year. I don't know if they covered ankle sprains in the PowerPoint, but just in case, I'm going to talk about a UCL sprain. So the UCL, the ulnar collateral ligament, what happens is, let's say the arm is bent back, and this ligament that attaches the ulnar and feeds up into the elbow, it gets a lot of stress on it, and depending on how large the stress is, it could be a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd degree. Strains are very similar, but they occur in muscles and tendons. So we've seen this in people who are weightlifting, they're doing curls, and they could strain their bicep. I've seen videos where people completely separate their bicep. That would be the 3rd degree. Like ligament, like sprains, there are strains. There are degrees of strains. So 1st degree, where it's just stretched and you're going to have some pain there. 2nd degree, where there's micro tearing. And 3rd degree, where there's complete separation of the muscle or tendon. A very common third degree strain is an Achilles tendon rupture, which would be a third degree because it's completely rupturing the tendon. Next is going to be crutch fitting. For crutch fitting, you want to measure 1.5 arms length on the person receiving the crutches and 6 inches in front of the patient. Slight bend in the arm, only about 30 degrees, and 2 to 3 fingers below the top of their armpit because you want most of the weight to be on the hand and not the armpit. That's why you see a lot of people with a lot of towels or pillows on that armpit part because their crutches are improperly fitting and they're putting all their weight on their armpits. Walking upstairs, you should lead with your good foot and then follow up with the crutch and the bad foot. And walking downstairs, you should lead with the bad foot and a crutch and then follow up with the good foot. And so yeah, that's week 12 skill checkoff.